I stood frozen in my sister's dimly lit living room, the glow of her tablet burning my eyes like a spotlight on a stage I never auditioned for. My fingers trembled, hovering over the screen, as the words in the group chat seared into my brain. Cash Cow Crew. My name, Emily Harper, was plastered across their messages like a punchline. Spineless ATM, they called me. My own family. My mother, my sister Laura, my cousin Tessa, and Laura's smug husband Greg had turned my kindness into their personal comedy show. Each message was a dagger. Screenshots of my PayPal transfers, my texts offering help. Even a photo of the grocery bags I'd dropped off when Mom claimed she was too sick to shop. "She'll pay if we just smile and call her sis," Laura had written. Watch her open her wallet like it's muscle memory. My stomach churned, but I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just stood there, the hum of their laughter from the patio slicing through the air like a warning shot. It was Laura's birthday, a sunny Saturday in Seattle, the kind of day where the Puget Sound sparkles and everyone pretends to be carefree. I'd spent the morning crafting gift baskets, one with lavender candles, organic honey, and a bottle of Pinot Grigio she loved, the other with my homemade sourdough and blackberry tarts, baked at 5 a.m. while the city slept. I'd driven over with Biscuit, my rescue mutt, his soulful eyes watching me from the back seat like he knew something was wrong before I did. I'd triple-checked the locks on my small Capitol Hill apartment, watered my lone rosemary plant, and tucked away my paralegal files, a messy divorce case that had kept me up late untangling lies. The irony wasn't lost on me now. Laura's house was all glass and cedar, a testament to her husband's tech money and my endless emergency transfers. The patio buzzed with pop music and clinking wine glasses, the kind of scene you'd see in a glossy Instagram post. I knocked, balancing the baskets, but no one answered. Typical. I let myself in, the kitchen smelling of overpriced takeout masquerading as gourmet. A half-eaten charcuterie board sat under plastic wrap, Brie sweating like it knew it was out of place. "Hello?" I called softly, setting the baskets on the counter. Laura poked her head in, her blonde bob perfect as always. "Oh, Emily, you didn't have to bring anything," she said, her smile sharp enough to cut glass. "Just something I threw together," I replied, forcing a grin. From the patio, Greg's voice boomed. "Look who brought another casserole. Emily's solution to everything. Bake it or bankroll it." Laughter followed, loud and hollow. I swallowed the sting, reaching for a glass of water to steady myself. I'd learned long ago that arguing only made them call me oversensitive. I sat on the edge of the kitchen island, invisible as always. Their chatter swirled. Peloton classes, Napa Valley getaways, who was splitting a Hamptons rental. Then I saw it. Laura's tablet, unlocked, screen glowing next to a cheese knife. I didn't mean to touch it. My hand moved on instinct, muscle memory from years of fixing her tech issues. My fingerprint still worked. The Messages app was open, and there it was. Cash Cow Crew. My breath caught. I tapped, and the betrayal unfolded. "She thinks she's helping, bless her heart," Tessa wrote. "Need a new iPhone? Send Emily a sob story. Works every time." Mom's message hit hardest. "She's not family. She's a checkbook with a dopey grin." They'd attached receipts. $200, 0 cents for Mom's urgent meds. $500, 0 cents for Laura's car repair. $1,200, 0 cents for Tessa's emergency rent. I'd paid it all, thinking I was holding us together. Instead, I was their punchline. I placed the tablet back exactly as it was, my hands steady despite the storm in my chest. I walked out the front door, past the patio's laughter, unnoticed. The drive home was a blur, streetlights flickering like they were mourning with me. Halfway there, my car lurched, a sickening screech as the steering pulled hard. I swerved onto the shoulder, heart pounding, and got out. My front tire was shredded, a gash too clean to be accidental. No one was around, just the hum of distant traffic and the cold Seattle drizzle. I called a tow truck, my fingers shaking, and stood in the rain, wondering if this was a warning or just bad luck. Biscuit whimpered from the back seat as I climbed back in, his warmth the only thing keeping me grounded. At home, I let Biscuit out and sank onto my porch steps, the city's glow fading into dusk. I poured a glass of water, no wine, no drama, just silence. My apartment was small, but mine, a thrift store couch, a coffee table with a chipped corner, a single photo of Dad and me fishing on Puget Sound. His crooked smile the only thing I trusted anymore. I opened the jewelry box where I kept his old watch, a tarnished Timex he'd worn every day until the cancer took him. It used to tick softly, a reminder of Sunday pancakes and his bad jokes. Now it was silent, like him. I set it on the table and stared, something shifting inside me, not breaking, but hardening. I opened my laptop, the screen's glow harsh in the dark. My family ledger folder sat untouched for years, a digital graveyard of my naivety. I clicked it open. PayPal records, bank statements, Venmo notes. $50, 0 cents for Mom's groceries. $300, 0 cents for Laura's unexpected vet bill. $2,000, 0 cents for Tessa's crisis trip to Miami. The totals climbed. $142,000, 0 cents over 6 years. I wasn't helping. I was funding their lives. I leaned back, the number sinking in like a stone. $142,000, 0 cents. That was a down payment on a house, a new start, a life I'd never dared dream of because I was too busy playing their savior. The radiator creaked, and Biscuit's ears perked up. I stood, checking the locks again, a habit born from too many late-night emergencies when Laura would show up unannounced, teary-eyed, asking for just one more favor. I opened a new folder, Atlas. It was a name I'd chosen years ago, a nod to the weight I carried but never admitted. For 2 years I'd worked remotely for a small law firm in Portland, handling gritty cases. Estate disputes, financial fraud, elder abuse. I knew what it felt like to be used in the name of love. I pulled up a draft trust I'd started last spring, meant to protect Dad's modest estate, a coastal cabin in Oregon, a small savings account, a box of vintage baseball cards he'd sworn would make us rich someday. I removed Mom's name, then Laura's, then Tessa's. I added a clause directing the assets to a veterans charity, one Dad had loved. Not a cent would go to those who'd laughed behind my back. I froze all joint accounts I'd foolishly kept with Mom, canceled auto payments for her utilities, and updated my life insurance, removing her as beneficiary. Each click was quiet, deliberate, like locking a door I'd left open too long. I wandered to the kitchen, the microwave clock glowing 11:47 p.m. A stack of sticky notes sat by the fridge. I grabbed one and wrote, "If they only love you when you're useful, you're not loved your least." Dad's words, spoken years ago after I'd paid Laura's rent for the 3rd time. I'd brushed it off then, thinking he was jaded. Now, I saw he was right. I stuck the note next to a faded photo of us at the cabin, his arm around me, both of us squinting into the sun. I was about to turn off the lights when I heard it, a sharp thud against the front door. Biscuit growled, low and tense. I crept to the window, peering through the blinds. Nothing but shadows and the neighbor's flickering porch light. I opened the door cautiously, and there it was. A brick wrapped in a crumpled note, the word "leech" scrawled in red ink. My pulse spiked, but I didn't call the cops. Not yet. I locked the door, slid the brick into a plastic bag, and placed it on the counter like evidence. Someone wanted me scared. I wasn't yet. The next morning, I brushed dog hair off my navy blazer. the one I wore when I needed to feel like I had a spine. I drove to Laura's Brunch, a quaint bistro in Fremont with exposed brick and overpriced avocado toast. They were all there, Mom, Laura, Tessa, Greg, even Laura's teenage daughter, Ellie, glued to her phone. Laura's voice dripped with fake warmth. "Emily, you look rested. No kids, no worries, huh?" I slid into the booth, smiling thinly. "Or maybe just no one else's bills to pay." Mom stirred her latte, eyes narrowing. "My account's been acting up. Couldn't check the electric bill." I met her gaze. "Maybe it's time to change your password." The air thickened. They wanted to push, but the waitress interrupted, offering mimosas. I waited until she left, then placed my phone on the table, screen unlocked. "Before we order, let's look at something." I swiped to the screenshot. "Emily's our ATM if we play nice. Watch." Their faces froze. Laura's mouth parted. Tessa's fork clattered. Greg shifted like he wanted to bolt. "You left your tablet open, Laura," I said, voice steady. "I wasn't snooping. I was paying your phone bill." Laura's eyes welled up, too quick to be real. "It was a joke, Em. You're taking it out of context." I leaned forward. "I don't mind helping. I mind being lied to." Silence choked the table. I reached into my bag and pulled out a folder, laying out papers one by one. Laura's cosmetic surgery bill, paid by me. Tessa's back rent, covered. Mom's emergency hospital visit, settled. $142,000, 0 cents, I said softly. "This wasn't help, it was a scam." Greg muttered. "Maybe this isn't the place." I turned to him. "It's exactly the place, because this was never about money. It was about trust." Laura's voice cracked. "We needed it, Em." I cut her off. "Then you should have asked, not plotted." I stood, brushing crumbs off my lap. "Oh, and the house? You're out by Friday." I walked out. Their stunned faces burned into my memory. Outside, the Seattle air was crisp, carrying the faint salt of the sound. I got in my car, hands steady on the wheel, but as I pulled onto the street, a black SUV swerved too close, nearly clipping my bumper. I slammed the brakes, heart racing, but it sped off, taillights vanishing into traffic. Coincidence? Maybe. But my gut screamed otherwise. Back home, I found Laura's scarf on my couch, Tessa's water bottle on my counter, Mom's old sweater draped over a chair. My house wasn't mine. It was their storage unit. I drove to my lawyer's office downtown, a sleek glass building overlooking Elliott Bay. Mr. Kessler, a gray-hailed attorney with a no-nonsense stare, had a folder ready. "You ready to file for possession?" he asked. "Yes," I said, sliding the deed across his desk. "My name only. Always has been." He nodded, typing up the 72-hour notice. As I left, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "You'll regret this." I froze, the hairs on my neck prickling. I saved the message just in case. That night, the locksmiths arrived, 2 guys in crisp polos who changed every lock without a word. I tipped them in cash, taped a notice to the door. "Resident status changed. Retrieve belongings by Friday 8 p.m. and turned on my record player. Ella Fitzgerald's voice drowned out the buzzing texts from Laura, Mom, Tessa. "You're cruel. You can't do this. We're family." I ignored them, pulling down a shoebox from the closet. Inside was a note from Aunt Clara, her handwriting shaky but clear. "There's dignity in boundaries. Love that costs your soul isn't love." She'd left me this house, not Mom, not Laura. I'd waited years, hoping they'd change. I was done waiting. As I curled up on the couch, biscuit at my feet, a faint creak came from the backyard. I grabbed a flashlight, heart pounding, and scanned the darkness. Nothing but the sway of cedar branches. I locked the patio door, double-checked the windows, and sat back down, the note from Aunt Clara still in my hand. I didn't sleep that night. Something told me this was just the beginning. The Seattle sky was a bruised gray, the kind that promises rain but holds it back just to keep you on edge. I sat on my couch, Aunt Clara's note still clutched in my hand, its words echoing like a lifeline. The record player spun Ella Fitzgerald's voice, but it couldn't drown out the buzz of my phone, Laura's texts, Mom's voicemails, Tessa's half-hearted apologies piling up like unpaid bills. I muted them all, but the silence in my apartment felt heavy, not peaceful. Biscuit, my rescue mutt, lay at my feet, his ears twitching at every creak of the old building. Last night's backyard noise still lingered in my mind, a shadow I couldn't shake. I checked the locks again, my fingers brushing the new keys the locksmith had installed. They felt cold, solid, a small victory. But victory didn't feel like safety. Not yet. I opened my laptop, the glow harsh against the dim morning light. I hadn't planned to write, but the words came anyway, spilling onto a blank document. Love isn't a debt. Family isn't a free pass. It wasn't a rant or a cry for pity. It was a reckoning. I wrote about the small slights that had chipped away at me. Mom's pursed lips when I asked for repayment. Laura's eye rolls when I showed up with another casserole. Tessa's fake tears whenever a bill came due. I wrote about the $142,000, 0 cents, I'd poured into their lives, thinking it was love, only to find it was leverage. I wrote about Dad, his crooked smile, and the way he'd warned me. If they only love you when you're useful, you're not loved. You're leased. I didn't name them. I didn't need to. The truth didn't need proper nouns to cut deep. I saved the draft and emailed it to a small online magazine, Real Voices, known for publishing raw, unfiltered stories. I didn't expect much. Maybe a few readers. A nod from my grief support group. I hit send, closed the laptop, and stood to make coffee. The machine gurgled, and Biscuit's tail thumped softly. For a moment, it felt normal. Then came the crash, glass shattering somewhere in the back of the house. My heart lurched. I grabbed a kitchen knife, Biscuit growling low as we crept toward the sound. The patio door was intact, but a side window in the guest room was smashed, shards glittering on the hardwood. A rock lay in the middle, wrapped in a note. "You're not untouchable." My breath hitched. I scanned the room, half expecting someone to step out of the shadows. Nothing. Just the wind whistling through the broken pane. I called the police, my voice steadier than I felt. 2 officers arrived within the hour, a man and a woman, both with tired eyes and clipboards. "Any idea who'd do this?" the woman asked, jotting notes. I hesitated, then showed them the first note. The brick from last night, still in its plastic bag. "I don't know for sure," I said, "but I have a guess." I told them about the Cash Cow crew chat, the family fallout, the eviction notice. The man raised an eyebrow. "You got cameras?" I shook my head but mentioned my neighbor's smart doorbell across the street. "He's out of town, but it's always recording." They nodded, promising to pull the footage. I handed over the new note, its jagged handwriting burning in my mind. As they left, the woman turned back. "Get that window fixed, and maybe stay somewhere else tonight." I didn't leave. This was my home, the one Aunt Clara had left me, the one I'd fought to keep. I called a glazier who patched the window by noon, but the unease lingered. I swept up the glass, Biscuit trailing me like a guard dog. My phone buzzed again, a text from an unknown number. "You can't hide." I saved it, my jaw tight. Someone was trying to scare me, and I wasn't sure if it was Laura, Greg, or someone they'd roped in. I didn't reply. Instead, I opened my laptop again, checking Real Voices. My essay was live. I stared at the title, bold against the site's clean layout. Love isn't a debt. Family isn't a free pass. I refreshed the page. 10 views, then 20. By lunch, it was 200, comments flooding in from strangers. This is my life. I cut off my sister last year. You're not alone. A woman named Sarah wrote, "You put words to my pain." Thank you. I was still reading when my phone lit up with a notification. A share from a popular parenting blog, then another from a Seattle lifestyle account. By 2 p.m., the essay was trending on Twitter, hashtags like "family isn't free" and "no more doormats" sprouting like wildfire. My inbox overflowed with messages. Mothers, daughters, even a grandfather who wrote, "I was the bank for my kids too. Wish I'd read this sooner." I sat back, stunned. I hadn't expected this. I'd just wanted to speak, to let the silence scream for once. But the world was listening, and it was loud. Then came the backlash. Laura posted on Instagram a photo of a rose bouquet with a caption, "Some people choose chaos over family." Mom commented under a thread about my essay. She edited those texts. They're fake. But the tide was turning. Janine, my old neighbor, replied, "I saw how you treated her at Laura's wedding. Don't play victim now." Mr. Callahan, my high school history teacher, chimed in. "Emily's honest, always has been. You can't rewrite that." Even distant cousins, silent for years, liked every post defending me. I wasn't gloating. I wasn't even relieved. I was just breathing. At 3 p.m., a headline pinged on my phone. Tech VP suspended amid viral essay fallout. Greg, Laura's husband, was out at his company, Cascadia Labs, after neighbors' footage caught his car near my house the night my tires were slashed. The internet did the rest, connecting dots faster than a courtroom. Laura's new fashion line, a sustainable clothing brand she'd hyped for months, imploded as 3 sponsors pulled out. Comments flooded her posts. Is this the Laura from the essay? Doormat no more? She tried deleting them, but the internet doesn't forget. I was still processing when my phone rang. Mom's name flashed on the screen. I let it go to voicemail. Her voice was sharp, trembling. "You aired our dirty laundry for clout, Emily. Always so dramatic, making it about you. You think you're the victim? You're not." I saved the voicemail not out of spite, but to remind myself what it sounded like when someone tried to shame the truth. An hour later, another call came. An unknown number. Chicago. I almost ignored it, but something nudged me to answer. "Ms. Emily Harper?" a calm male voice asked. "I am Daniel Haskins, your father's attorney. We need to talk about a will you were never told about." I blinked. Coffee forgotten. I was told Dad didn't have a will. Everything went to Mom. Haskins sighed. "That's what your family claimed, but it's more complicated and not entirely legal." My heart pounded. I agreed to meet him the next day in Oak Brook, a quiet suburb outside Seattle. That night, I barely slept. The notes, "Leech, you're not untouchable," flashing in my mind. I kept my bedroom door locked, Biscuit curled up beside me, his warmth a small anchor. The next morning, I drove to Haskins' office, a low brick building tucked between maples. He was in his late 60s, silver glasses glinting under fluorescent lights. He handed me a folder with an apologetic look. "I'm sorry you didn't see this sooner, Ms. Harper. Your father trusted me, and I failed to push harder." Inside was a single page in Dad's uneven scrawl, dated 9 months before his death. "If Emily chooses to walk away, she inherits full ownership of the Oregon cabin and 40% of my estate. She deserves freedom. She deserves to be seen." My throat tightened. Why didn't anyone tell me? Haskim hesitated. "Your mother blocked the filing, claimed he'd changed his mind. I have emails proving otherwise." Delayed it past probate, rewriting the story. I sank back, the leather chair creaking. Dad had known. He'd seen the way they leaned on me, the way Laura's emergencies always came first, the way Mom's silence cut deeper than her words. "There's more," Haskins said. "Your trust fund was frozen at 24, cited as poor financial judgment. Your mother submitted a single missed rent payment and a bounced check." I laughed bitterly. I had just moved to Seattle. One bad month. He slid over another document. "She didn't mention diverting the fund to Laura's account, college tuition, a condo down payment, a semester in Paris." The numbers blurred. $180,000. 0 cents. Meant for me. Siphoned off to fuel Laura's life. "How is that legal?" I asked. "It wasn't," Haskins replied. "You can sue for recovery and damages." I didn't speak. I just stared at the papers, Dad's handwriting a lifeline across the years. I drove north after the meeting. Not home, but to the Oregon cabin. The gravel crunched under my tires, the air thick with pine and salt. I hadn't been back since Dad died. The cabin was frozen in time, his chipped mug on the counter, his fishing hat by the door. I wandered to his bedroom, opening the nightstand. Tucked between receipts was a photo. Me at 16, curled up next to him on the dock, his arm around me. On the back in his scrawl, "You don't owe them anything, Em." I sat on the bed, the photo shaking in my hands. For the first time, I cried, not from pain, but from clarity. He'd seen me when I couldn't see myself. As I stepped onto the porch, the wind bit my face, but I felt warm inside. I dialed a number I hadn't called in years. Dr. Keir, Dad's old friend and financial advisor. "Hello?" His voice was hesitant. "It's Emily." "I'm ready. Do you still have those papers we discussed?" A pause, then a sigh. "Yes, Emily. I've got everything." I hung up, the lake glinting gold in the dusk. I wasn't just reclaiming the cabin, I was reclaiming me. The next morning, I reserved the private room at Belmont Grill, the same spot where Laura and Mom had once cornered me over brunch, their smiles as sharp as their demands. This time, I chose the table, white tablecloths, soft jazz, a view of the Sound. They arrived one by one. Laura in stilettos, popping gum like she owned the room. Mom in pearls, her scowl already set. Uncle Troy with his salesman grin. "Didn't expect you to foot the bill, Em," Laura said, smirking. Mom muttered, "Don't start, Laura." I sipped my water, silent. A soft knock interrupted. A man in a gray suit, badge clipped to his belt, entered. He handed each of them an envelope, his face blank. Laura tore hers open, her smirk vanishing. "Fraud? Misappropriation? You're suing me?" Mom's envelope hit the table, her lips tight. "You spiteful child, dragging us through court?" I folded my hands. "I'm not dragging anyone. I'm done being your rug. You forged documents, stole my trust fund, blocked Dad's will. You knew what you were doing." Laura stood, pointing. "This is about your ego, Emily. You couldn't handle Dad loving me more." I met her eyes. "That's the story you told yourself, but he saw through you. You should have read his real will." The room went still. No clinking glasses, no jazz filling the silence. "I'm not here for revenge," I said, standing. "I'm here for the truth you bought with my kindness. That deal's done." I walked out, their faces frozen behind me. Outside, cameras flashed on the courthouse steps across the street. Reporters swarmed Laura and Mom. "Can you comment on the trust fund theft? Did you block the will?" They shielded their faces, but the questions kept coming. I kept walking, a young reporter jogging beside me. "Miss Harper, anything to say?" "To your family?" I paused, looking into the camera. I hope they learn what love without strings feels like. That night I drove back to the cabin, the porch light flickering as I stepped inside. I placed a brass plate on Dad's old desk, the No More Doormat Project, support for adult children of family coercion. The foundation was live, funded by the trust fund settlement, with plans for workshops and resources for people like me, taught to shrink for the sake of family. As I filed papers, I found an envelope in the desk drawer. No stamp, just Dad's law firm's name inside, his handwriting. If you're reading this, they've tried to rewrite your life. I'm sorry I couldn't stop it. They'll call you ungrateful, cold. But you're free, Emily. Don't waste it. I pressed the letter to my chest, tears welling but not falling. Outside, the lake whispered, and I sank into Dad's wicker chair, coffee in hand. No one called. No one asked for anything. The silence was mine, clean and hard one. But as I locked the cabin door, headlights flashed in the distance, too close for comfort. A car idled at the edge of the property, then peeled away. My heart raced. Was it Greg? Laura? Someone else? I gripped my phone, ready to dial 911, but the night stayed quiet. Too quiet. I didn't sleep, the questions burning. Who was in that car? What else was in Dad's will they'd hid? Would Matt, my silent brother, finally step up? And what would the No More Doormat Project become? The truth was out, but the fight, I knew, was far from over.